So liberation theology is the fourth philosophical foundation of Christian politics, so to speak, and it has been massively influential, especially in Latin America, where it started. One of the problems with liberation theology is that it's very often associated with Marxism, communism, socialism, and left-wing ideologies, and to some extent this is absolutely the case. But at the same time, what's interesting about liberation theology is that it really invites its followers to get involved in social action, and therefore also in politics, to combat injustice in ways that perhaps more spiritual denominational teachings do not do, and that's, I think, the interest of liberation theology. It can be criticized, but at least liberation theologians have actively implemented this vision for the promotion of well-being of society. So therefore, that's why I've included this current in this course. Of course, the starting point of liberation theology is this idea and this notion that there has to be a preferential option for the poor, and actually it goes so far to claim that Jesus himself had this preferential option for the poor, and we should always look at the poor first. And it makes sense when you look at the biblical references to supporting vulnerable groups, whether widows, orphans, refugees, or the poor, the needy, and so this is very much underlined in liberation theology. And what liberation theologians say, and of course many more conservative theologians would obviously disagree, but would say that Christian salvation cannot occur without economic, political, social, and ideological liberation as visible signs of the dignity of man. And so they go one step further than integral mission. Integral mission, as I explained, says that evangelism and social action go hand in hand, but liberation theology says, well, it's really about social action only. And that's really what's most important. And so they do not necessarily deny the importance of Christian salvation, but they say, well, you know, what about the poor? What about the needy? How are we going to help them? And they use this concept of liberation, liberation from poverty, from oppression, from dictatorship, as the key focus. And it's always an extension, an application, implementation of this concept of human dignity that's also present. It's also interesting about integral mission is about liberation theology is that it's interdenominational and involves both Protestants and Catholics, but most of them, of course, more left-leaning ideologically. So liberation is viewed as the awareness of the Latin American socio-economic reality and the need to eliminate exploitation, the lack of opportunities, and injustices in the world. And in a sense, this connects with the one of the tenets of Reformed political philosophy, where it says, well, that we should work towards the restoration of creation. And so all the social issues that we see, the social economic injustices which liberation theologians focus on, all those injustices are actually consequences of the fallen creation, and so we need to liberate them from this, and so in a very real sense, the current situation of the majority of Latin Americans contradicts the historical design of God, so the creational order that was perfect, etc., and is the consequence of a social sin. So they make this distinction, or they make this transition from the theological concept of sin to a social sin. This is the existence of injustice, of structures that maintain poverty and crime and all kind of other things, is actually also in a way a sin not by an individual but by a society. It's a social sin, which is actually a very interesting way to look at this. Of course, liberation theologians really focus mostly on socioeconomic injustices, and much less on issues that are related to life and death, which are very, very much on the agenda of conservative Christians. But nevertheless, it's an interesting complement, and so what liberation theology also states is that not only are there sinners, but there are also victims of sin who need justice and restoration. And so if there's poverty, that's because there is sin in society that needs to be restored. Right? Okay. And so the prophetic denunciation is a mission and a service alongside the poorest. Yeah. And also, and here, this is very interesting, actually, which connects with what Groen van Busser says, there needs to be a consistent witness, living what is proclaimed. So practice what you preach, lead by example.